Communication gets confused. Sometimes it's just more noise, but some master the craft through greater listening, engaging, and trust building. Supercharged communication. That's our topic on this episode of the Educators Among Us podcast.
Welcome to the Educators Among Us podcast, where we share motivational messages and inspiring stories for and about educators. Your host, Scott Barron, is author of the critically acclaimed book, Love 'Em and Lead 'Em, and provides powerful insights and wisdom for those who heed the call to teach, coach, lead, and serve at all levels of education.
This is Scott Barron, and I'm honored to be your host for the Educators Among Us podcast. We love speaking perspective and truth, and even some encouragement, some prodding to those who serve at all levels of education, because it really does take a full team. There's so many people that are involved, different roles and responsibilities that happen within schools and learning organizations. But we have a passion for this work, right? We love it. We get to change lives. I mean, come on. How can you not love that? If you don't love that, go do something else. I mean, come on, right? This is life-changing work that we do, and it's exciting to be a part of it. And even though sometimes the energy can wane, right? I mean, sometimes as we're going through, it just kind of wears you down. I've heard some people use the term burnout or other things, and I've even seen some folks, some influencers on different social media platforms talking about the burned out teacher and other things, and how they've changed careers. And in some ways, it's like, well, good. I mean, because burned out teachers, that's no good for anybody. But there's burned out computer programmers, there's burned out DJs, there's burned out athletes, there's burned out executives, there's burned out everything, right? Anybody can get tired at a job. The challenge is how do we bring that energy? How do we find that joy? How do we sustain the calling to the work? And it's purpose-driven life is a game-changing life. When you know why you do what you do, it changes your perspective on this. Everybody deals with conflict and friction and setbacks and discouragements, and some figure out how to have that joy anyway. Right? They embrace the challenges and they choose a perspective. And that's why we do this, is to give that perspective, because you can look at lots of things different ways. But if you look at it as a blessing and you find ways to find the points of joy in it and what you're learning through it and building relationships from it, great things happen. And the thing about energy that's a hot topic these days, right? I mean, there's a lot of things going on, and there's different types of energy. There's different threats to energy. There's gas, there's solar, there's wind, there's reliable, there's renewable, there's different types of energy. And again, as we get towards the end of the school year, the energy level starts to get pretty thin. But there's choices that we make, right? Energy levels in us personally, and as well as in our organizations. And you've noticed this. I know there are some people that they cause the energy to go up. It's just by their enthusiasm. It's not necessarily the people who are charismatic, who are sort of the cheerleaders. We need them as well, but sometimes it's just because of it's that calming presence that they bring, right? There's some it's because of their discipline, their work ethic. Some of them because they just have a resiliency that enables them to get through, right? Some cause the energy to go up. Some will just drain the room. I mean, there's some people that they can just walk in the room and everybody's like, they feel like their energy level's dropping just because of the negativity and because of the complaining and because of the toxicity that comes from those people. And unfortunately, they even have a presence in schools, which is something that is a leadership problem. But there's things that we have to work through. Some are reliable sources of energy and some are renewable sources of energy, but we need that energy. We need to have that ability to keep it going even through the difficult times, right? Some of that energy comes through communications. It's how we communicate. And that's what I was mentioning earlier. Is the difference between the energy, builders and the energy drains, or it's often how they communicate. Right? Once a human being has arrived on this earth, said Virginia Setter, right? Once a human being has arrived on this earth, communication is the largest single factor determining what kinds of relationships she or he makes with others and what happens to each in their world, right? In other words, everything for every human being, a lot of their life, it pivots on how they learn to communicate. Now, who do you think of? If I was to ask you, who do you think of as being a great communicator? Right? Who comes to mind? Well, I mean, often it's speakers, it's public speakers, right? It's like Winston Churchill or Billy Graham or Martin Luther King Jr., right? They often will be the people you would think of. Sometimes it would be folks like Steve Jobs or other business leaders that they just had they had a presence. They knew how to communicate. But communication, right? Communication is so much more than just speaking or writing or even posting, right? It's so much bigger than that. Expertly expressing what we know or believe, well, I mean, that's a valued skill for educators, of course, right? But communication is actually getting through in a way that deepens connections, right? I mean, the original form of the word is about building a bond. It's not about expressing information. It's about connecting, right? Because we are a part of a vital network of relationships. Anybody is a part of that, but especially educators. Educators are particularly vital in that network of relationships. Often what schools promote as their value proposition is the community, the family, the connections, the relationships that we have together. And that feeds us, right? And we also feed it. I mean, we get fed through that relationship and we vital nutrients of relationship and connection and self-esteem, and then we also feed that network of relationships. But understanding that network, that's huge. It's a vital part of our human existence, right? To communicate, put your thoughts in order, right? It's not just a random thing that you fire off, right? To communicate, put your thoughts in order, said William Safire. Give them a purpose. Use them to persuade, to instruct, to discover. Be wise with your communications. Communication, it grows community. It grows those relationships with greater trust, energy, and engagement. And those are three particular elements that would encourage you to pay attention to, because trust is such a vital part of any organization, but especially in a school, because schools are so ripe with conflict and with growth and with things that are with progress, and those all test the patience. They push us. They force a level of, as Peter had to do one time, was get out of the boat, take some risks, have some faith, right? That's scary. And schools particularly have a commitment to conflict, right? And so trust helps people feel safe. We need that trust. And how we communicate, it builds or degrades trust. But we need that in order to collaborate, to share ideas, to resolve conflict. We have to be very wise in how we sustain those connections with each other. The most energizing gift that we can give others, right, is the fullness of our attention. You want to make friends, you want to build deeper relationships with the people that are there in your network, give them your attention. Because what do they want to talk about? themselves. Always, right? And if you can not only give them your attention, but then follow up, right? Follow up later on with on the key points to demonstrate that they remain on our mind, that it wasn't just a one-off, but you actually took the time, invested the effort to remember them and to follow up to say, hey, how did that go? Regarding their children or decisions that they're making or their health or their some of the things they're doing in their office work or their classroom, right? Follow up. It's amazing the level of energy that you will generate, because people want to know that you paid attention and that we're not just out of mind, but there's a mind share together. Right? Engaged educators, they don't just show up. They're not just showing up for work. They're not just there to do the job. They stand out, right? They don't just show up, but they stand out because of their focused commitment. And that is motivated and emotionally invested to deliver their best. They're showing up because they love this work. They find the joy anyway, and they invest of their whole self into it, right? As Ephesians 4:29 says, do not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouths, but only what is helpful for building others up according to their needs. If there's any verse that conveys what educators have to do, are called to do, it is this: don't let your tongue get you in trouble. Don't let your tongue be a deficit to other people that degrades trust, that creates toxic words. Don't be careless with your words. You're smart. You're an educator. You've been blessed with a very distinct level of intelligence and gifting. But don't let that go down the wrong path, because we have a power. We have to be very careful to build others up according to their needs, right? That means to communicate. That means, because communication, that's the heart of our calling. To communicate is the heart of a calling to educate, right? It's how we get her done. Right? That's the main, method of our madness. We're careful to listen completely, right? We're careful to listen completely, to hear what isn't being said, but needs to be included in our instructional plans, in our strategic plans, in our meeting agenda, or future dialogues, future conversations, right? We know how to read between the lines. We pick up on it because we have a sensitivity, right? We have a sensitivity. We hear what people are saying as well as what they're not saying. We use the full scope of our intelligence and our spirit as a reliable and a renewable source of energy, right? Because we build others up. We build them up when and where they need it the most. We care when we pay attention and we invest in them. Communication is far more than hitting send. It's really about being a friend. So the challenge: be a supercharger in your network this week. Be that place that they can go to get a fast energy boost. Be that source for them, right? Be a supercharger, bringing the energy every day to grow trust and engagement, because that's what highly effective educators do. They bring that energy. They energize people. They provide the words of encouragement. They meet their needs. They're not energy drains. They're an energy train. They're on the track. They're moving. They're not an energy pain. They're on the energy lane, right? They're in it. They know where they're going, and they're very purposeful in it. They're not an energy strain. They're an energy brain. They're thinking about new things. They're finding new ways, right? Because they understand the power of their influence. Hey, thank you for doing that. Thank you for having that level of care, not only for students, but especially for your colleagues and for the parents and the others that you interact with. It's a full network. We like to say it's a grapevine. It's a network of relationships that need each other and thrive on each other, that have to be pruned every now and then, that have to be cared for, right? This is a vital part of leadership and for educators to make the maximum difference in the lives of others. And so please be that encouragement for others, and encourage them to also be a part of this community as well, with the Educators Among Us podcast, and share that link with them for the weekly encouragement that we share. Share it out with the educators that are in your network. We'd love to have more that get to a chance to hear some of this. We've got people who subscribe from literally around the world, so we're excited to be able to share some of these stories and some of these words of encouragement for educators. Just got back from a conference in Minneapolis, and headed out next week to Baltimore, and then we'll be in South Africa in a couple of months, next month actually, and time's flying, and then we'll be in Denver, and then Colorado, other places. So thank you for being a part of this, for your support for what we're doing. And before we go, I want to give you one more thought, a coaching question to consider as you go through each day. Did I do my best to be a supercharger today? Did I do my best to be a supercharger today? Love him and lead him, my friend. This is Scott.
Thank you for joining us for the Educators Among Us podcast, and for your courageous commitment to this noble calling. We get you and the challenges of this work. To stay connected with this community, be sure to subscribe to our podcast and weekly encouragement at educatorsamongus.com.